I would like to call the P&D committee meeting to order, and the first item is roll call, please.
Mrs. Root,
Here?
Mrs. Hanchett,
Here.
Mr. Barnes,
Present.
Mr. Curran,
Here.
Mr. Havey,
Here.
Mr. Healy,
Here.
Mr. Ricky,
Here.
Mrs. Ricketts-Swales,
Here.
and Mr. Harris. 8 present.
All right, thank you. Next item is your approval of the March 20th minutes, and I entertain a motion for those.
Hanchett moves.
Do we have a second?
Ricky.
Any further discussion on those minutes? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. I'd like to acknowledge that in our packet today that we did get a monthly report from Tim Boyd, Director of Economic Development, Craig Clark, Industrial Development Agency, Keir Durham, Director of Planning, and Rita Sobek Lynch, Employment and Training Program Director. And if you look at them, you'll notice that they are following a new format. They're a one-page, and we have them branded, and so they're all look alike, and they will be attached to the minutes going forward from now on. So then, moving on, we have new business today, and I have invited Tom Windus here to give us an update on the Crossroad project. He's given us some handouts. So before you start, I just want to, when this Crossroad project started, it was about a hotel back in the day. How many years ago? We were talking about the hotel. So I look at that as like project number 1. And since then, we've had other developments, and now we're looking at a PDW facility out there also down the road a little bit. So this project has grown in scope. And so I've asked Tom to come and give us an update on, I think there's almost like three parts of this project, is there not, Tom?
At least, yes.
So let's start with the hotel. And can you give us an update on when we were looking and talking, we needed a road into the site to make it site ready, and we also needed fire suppression. Can you give us an update on those?
I sure can.
Thank
So
you.
as far as the road, we've got the design done 99%. What we're waiting on is stormwater management. And Hunt has been tasked with doing a SWIP, which is a Stormwater Management Pollution Prevention Plan. They're working with DEC right now to get that plan done. Once that's accepted by DEC and the archaeological survey is completed, that information goes into SHPO. They sign off, then we can go ahead and start the road. So those are the 2 items we're waiting on. I wouldn't say that would take us too much longer, 2-3 months maybe, but then we can get started on the road itself. So, and then the other part of it is the water and infrastructure for the potential development in that area. And as you may be aware, we are in the process of, I believe, accepting a grant from IIJA.
Correct.
Yeah, AJA, that was for a tank and 1,100 linear feet of water line. So the plan and the design is to loop the water line along County Route 51, whatever that county road will be. I'm calling it 51, but, and then, and I said the tank. And the tank is more for the fire suppression system. As we know, Friendship maintains that line for the entity that owns the line. And they really don't want a pump on the system for fire protection. So in order to have fire protection without a pump, you have to have enough volume and pressure, therefore the tank. And so we're working towards a location for the tank, but you know, at least the water line portion is moving forward. And then the sewer side of things, we've kind of come up with consensus of what our thoughts are. So the 2 top and bottom drawings right the top picture shows the red line, that's the Gateway County 51 loop, 12-inch DIP. So
That's the road.
That's the road. The red is the road with the water line on it.
Okay.
Just so it gives you an idea. And then you can see that to the southwest, about 1.5 miles, 2 miles is where the S-curves itself is. So it just gives you proximity. So water itself what we're looking at is the loop system to tie into the existing line, and then possibly a tank down on our property or adjacent property to provide the fire flows and pressures. And then the bottom one shows the sewer service area. Similarly, gravity system over to the east side. You'll see a lift station that's on east side of State Route 19 with a force main back to the sewage treatment plant, which would be on the S curves. We're working on finalizing, estimates and all of that. Our plan is to take this to a cow in the near future. We'd really like to have the full board vote on it, on the layout, on the service areas, and then move forward with county water and sewer districts. So that is the water and sewer portion for the gateway area itself.
What's the timeline for that? Approximately.
We'd like to bring it to a cow in the near future. So, and then make final decisions on service areas, because once you get the service areas set, then Hunt can do the final survey work, get the design started, and get it moving on that. I would say 8 to 10 months for design work.
Okay.
And then, obviously we'll go after as much funding as we possibly can. And along with, once they have the final design, they can get the permitting. Permitting is plus or minus so many months. So best case scenario, maybe next summer. Worst case scenario, the following summer. But a lot of this work can be done year round. It's not so temperature sensitive as a lot of work we do.
So we would have to go out for additional funding for the packaging plant. Did we not, wasn't that included in one of these?
You're gonna have to get a lot of additional funding.
Okay.
I think, depending on how broad you want to paint the picture, 25 to 30 million, I would say, for the entire project of the DPW buildings. Doing the transportation building, water and sewer. And that was part of the reason why we wanted to make sure we had that bonding resolution done that you had the other day. So you could, if you wanted to bond some of the planning costs, we have the ability to go up to $8 million on that. You're gonna have to have a lot of meetings to figure out if this is all stuff you're comfortable with moving forward with. Like Tom said, we're just gathering information and getting the best information we have right now. We'll need to have a cow to get the board stamp of approval that you like this plan, and we'll have to have Terry coming up with some ideas on how we're gonna finance it, and that you like and are comfortable with those ideas too.
So you're wrapping in the hotel part of that all into one capital project and bonding issue? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, we have nothing to do with the hotel. It's the county road,
Right.
and then we're running the infrastructure along the county road. So it'll be ready for the hotel site or the restaurant site or whatever the IDA wants to market that property to take it to the next level and make those places site ready. So they'll have the infrastructure there, they just need to finish the job with their own stuff.
Right. So we have funding to do that part of it through the IIJA, correct?
We have a very small
A
amount.
starting
like
amount.
We got a starting amount.
Got it.
a little over $1 million, I think.
Okay.
You do have the money that you set aside that was committed for economic development, which is about $5.9 million. Still, there's a balance there.
Okay.
So that will be one source that we will look at as well, so.
Okay. All right.
So just to finish, Mike,
Yep.
if I may, just with the mapping, and then if there's any questions, absolutely. On that bottom one with the sewer portion of it, as you can tell down on the S curves, it says package plant on the outside. This was just a generic layout of the proposed package plant that was expandable. That's the full 11 by 17. Yes. And then this is just a preliminary, the last one is just a preliminary layout of the DPW facility along with the transportation facility to give you an idea of how everything would fit in. So it was just more of an informational standpoint, none of it's set in stone. It's just, so we can, as Krista mentioned, we're trying to gather all the best information and bring it to you and present what our recommendations are as we've been asked to do.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Tom on any of this? Yes, Jan?
You talked about a sewer district and a water district. Those have to be created by the state, I believe, right? They have to be approved by the state.
They have to be approved by the state, that's correct.
So it's a lengthy process. When would you
More than
start?
likely.
When would you start doing that so that it's ready?
Yeah, we've had some preliminary discussions on getting that going. I think we're gonna have a meeting Tuesday, actually. Terry's office, Tom's office, myself, Hunt, and our bond counsel. I think Allison was gonna try to be there, but she might have another commitment. To talk about what that looks like, what the timeline is, what the stages are on doing that, So we're starting the conversation so that we can also come back to you with that information.
Exactly.
Anybody else have any questions for Tom?
I got one. Is that driveway gonna be ours, Tom, or is it a right-of-way? How's the deal going into the facility?
That would be ours. The driveway into the Public Works facility and transportation, yes.
And we
We're
don't-
working on getting that easement right now, a permanent easement from the property owner to the north. We've got the drawing all drawn up, permanent easement drawn up, and it's been sent to their office to get signatures on it.
So we
They
don't have,
verbally told us that they will give us that permanent easement.
okay, good, so we don't have to cross the tracks.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's where we'd like to get deliveries of tractor trailers. If we got tractor trailers coming in and out, we'll use that driveway. And that would be our primary driveway. We would still like to cross the railroad tracks with vehicular, smaller cars, so they're not trapped on the tracks itself if they're stopped at a stop sign. So, you're welcome.
Mike, did you have a question?
Yes, well, this represents quite an investment overall, as it was mentioned, but I'd just like to remind everybody that we had to do something with the DPW shop, no matter what. And I think it was determined that this current location was not, probably didn't meet the current regulations for ingress and egress or other, wouldn't have been a viable investment for the county. And so I'm glad to see that we got a good location and still close to Friendship. Just a question about the loop in the water line. Now that's going to ensure that we have both a good quality of water and also good water pressure, the loop will, is that correct?
The loop is more a belts and suspenders to make sure that if you have a water main break somewhere, you can get water from one side or the other. You always like to loop a system. So water, the pressure, volume, that's going to come from the tank itself. Okay. So the loop is more for if you get a break in the water main somewhere along it, you can shut it off with valving and still get water from the other side. Does that make sense?
Yep, okay. And do we own some property on the north side of the, where the DPW shop's proposed to go? On the north side of the westbound lane, do we still own is there a little corner that comes out on that side, on the Hess
You know,
Road?
it's funny because I think we do on the west side of 86.
Right, be on
Yeah,
the
northwest.
corner of the old,
Yes.
on Hess Road, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed the drawings from the surveys, some of the information that we've been gathering, and it did get cut by 86, but there is a little triangle on the other side.
And, well, this all sounds pretty good to me, and the sooner we get going, the sooner we can apply for additional funding that we'll need to, so I'm all for it, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I'm just going to go back because I want to just be
Sure.
clear. So I'm going to break it up a little bit. I'm interested in timelines, and
Yep.
so we have reality here and not unexpected or high expectations that the development of the road, let's say 6 months.
Sure.
The water suppression tank and water line,
I
year
would say design and permitting should be done within the year.
within the year.
Within the year. And then it would be a matter of, do we have enough funding to move it forward or not? And obviously, all of that would have to come back for final approvals.
Yep.
So yes, I would say that would be a good time frame for design. Once the full legislators give the go-ahead that that's that's the final design and
Right.
where they want it to be, then they can get to final design and permitting.
Within a
So-
year.
Yeah,
And then looking for the funding to carry it out would be
Correct.
the next step,
correct.
okay? And that can be done while all the work on the new building facilities is going on, correct?
Correct. Well, there'll be a lot of
Do you need the
designing.
water, do you need the water authority district before we can finish all this?
Not
In-
necessarily, not necessarily. I
In
mean,
between,
everything-
we'll start
Yeah,
that work, though.
correct, Terry.
We will start that work to apply for the authorization to have the districts. In the meantime,
Right.
it'll be working at the same time
Yeah.
all this stuff will be working.
I'll just be
But
parallel.
that, we were told, would probably take a year.
A year, okay?
So, once we get it to the point where we can, like, that'll come out of our meeting next Tuesday too, I think, is when we can start applying to the state for those kind of districts, now that we know more about it. So, we should be able to get that started too, but that'll be a simultaneous process.
And we have already had some preliminary discussions with the state already, or?
No,
Yeah.
not yet.
We have not, only with our bond council trying to get everything set before we go there.
In our bond council, we call them bond council, but they also specialize in water and sewer authorities. So, and this is a firm and an individual that worked with us previously on these issues. So they're very familiar with the Crossroads area, they're familiar with what the IDA did and what our past efforts were.
So the sooner you get our approval, the sooner you can move on with all of this, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And really, as Terry has mentioned, a lot of it's parallel. Because even on the sewer side of things, once we get permission to move forward on that design package, they can get going on that. Get going on permitting and estimating, and that's really where we're gonna have to go after more monies
More
to
money.
try and get funding for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you on that. Anyone else have any more questions? And I guess I see Craig Clark in the gallery. Craig, do you have any comment? Are you good with what you were here? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Oh,
Deb, I just want to say that I really think Tom and Terry probably think I'm like the corniest administrator ever, but I don't believe it would be possible to have this conversation a few years ago, or even maybe, 5, 10 years out from now. You really do have the best staff I've ever seen in both DPW and the Treasurer's Office. We're lucky to have Allison here as our attorney. We're lucky to still have Tim here thinking up some creative ways to get this going. This is a super, super complicated conversation with multiple parties. We even have Friendship talking to us. We have, Belmont kind of looking at what we're doing here and wanting to know if they can help too. I don't know how you'd have this conversation without these great people here, and they really are the smartest, most ambitious, and dedicated employees you're ever going to find. So just thank you to everyone involved.
yeah, I would agree. And I think the conversation is good and we need to just understand it because it is huge. And some of us don't understand the complexity of it. So it's good to talk about it, to understand all the little moving parts that are involved in the completion of this. So thank you for that.
No problem. And I think you're right. I'm glad you brought it up today so we can get it kicked off to go to a cow and then have further discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
So stay right there, Tom. The next item we had, I asked Tom to come to give us an update on the employment and training office and where we stand on that. It's been a year. I know this is space needs, but the department reports into here. So I think it's important for us to hear where you are, what's going on, and give us an update, please.
It's actually a Carissa question, not a Tom question.
Okay.
So
All right.
as much work as Tom does, that probably falls squarely on my shoulders. So space needs study is almost done. It looks like we got our last 2 responses in, and we're ready to sit down and take a look. There are options out there for employment and training. The assumption's been we want to keep them close to the courthouse. We don't have a lot of real estate currently available. We could possibly shift some stuff around in this building. We could possibly build within the village. We do have a lot right down here on Court Street. We also have extra land out by the jail as well. We have some ideas. We don't have any single one picked out ready for recommendation. And we also don't have any cost or ideas of how we would fund that. You are going to really need to think seriously about finishing off the third floor here, no matter what you decide to do, because you're going to need to move people around. You need that flex space. I have a feeling there's probably not a way to address everybody's space needs without building something. So, and I also don't know how you look at financing such a large project like we just talked with. I'm just going to call it the Gateway Corridor, right?
Yeah,
Anything
yep.
from S-curves up to what we think of as traditional crossroads, and think of doing another building project at the same time. I just think that's going to be very challenging for you guys to figure that one out. So stay tuned. There's going to be recommendations, but I bet you we're going to have to stage them out and think long-term.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions, follow up on that? Yes, Gary?
The last thing you said, think long-term. Can you give me your definition of long-term?
Well, I can tell you, my idea of long-term could possibly revolve around the fact you already have two bonds out there. One expires in '29 and the other one, I think, in 2032. You're looking at taking a third bond out probably when the first one drops off. Can you afford another bond payment in your budget? Might be the definition of long-term, because if not, you're probably looking at 2032 and beyond, and between now and then, we're looking to just get by and figure out where we can put people in ways that we can fit it into our budget and not go out and borrow money. So that's my definition of long-term.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions concerning this? If not, thank you. Okay, next up, we have some action items. Yep. Michelle?
Good afternoon. So I am here this afternoon representing Mr. Durham for planning. And we have two MOEs that we're requesting today. Both are related to hazard mitigation. I believe the first is an acceptance and budgeting of grants. When we had originally accepted the grant funding in 2022, we had missed a small piece of the contract that included $7,500 related to subrecipient management costs. And so now we're just looking to do this MOE to correct that for $7,500.
Hanchett will move.
Helio, second.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. And the next MOE is just a reappropriation of that same grant funding stream. We have spent some of that, but we still have a little over $48,000 left to spend this year. Our contract does expire in August, and then we have a period of performance through March of 2025. So we're hoping to have this money expended this year.
Kern moves.
Helio, second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next up, we have old business, and we have update on training with Camoin. And we have been talking with Camoin about trying to schedule some of this training. This was the training with the boards, the IDAs, the workforce development groups, and the chambers. So we've been trying to find a date. We've looked at a few in July. We looked at a few in June. And this morning, Chris and I sat and talked, and now we've moved it out till September because we just couldn't get a date that seemed to work. So we will get back to you with that date, so we have plenty of time to set that time aside so we can get there. But that's where we are on that. Do we have anything for the good of the order today? If not, I will give you a heads up that in May, our agenda, we will be talking about the tourism marketing plan. We've asked in the past to see this plan before, And Kira and Michelle have put together, and they wanted to meet with us in May to go over this. This is going to give us time to see it, ask questions, and then approve it. And then they can go ahead with their budgeting and implementation of it. So I applaud you guys for coming and having it ready in May for us this year, because we did want it to have it approved in June. So that will be coming to us in May. So is there anything else for the good of the order today? If not, I'll ask for an adjournment.
Ricky, move.
Hanchett will second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.